what are we doing today? Well, I've got building work going on outside. That's the first problem. That's making a lot of noise. So we've got our acoustic guitars. I'm just going to solo these a second and show you what's going on. So this is... I'd love this if all my favourite artists made these videos. I'm like, yeah, get into the tracks while they're still being performed. So this guitar sound is really, really in debt to Nick Drake, as I've mentioned many times. So what's going on? What's under the hood? Well, obviously patrons, you're paying to know all the tricks. So it's quite a lot of EQ happening in terms of, like, it's a really broad EQ, but it's quite aggressive. So I'm just slicing off. It's coming in. It's sloped at 12 dB, and it's chopping off at 100. Call it 180. So it's quite different. If I go back and play it without the EQ. Straight away, and obviously I'm rolling off the top quite high. If I turn that off, actually, I'm gonna. Whoa, I'm pressing the wrong thing. Aha, been a bit aggressive there. It's the wrong thing. Ah, that's better. Okay, cool. So it's coming off at the top. It's not quite. Because that's the full range, and it's not. It's just too nice and too modern. This, I don't know what people like. The Ample guys who gave us this software, they're really great. I don't know what they're going to think to this when we're like degrading it. Like, it sounds so pristine and it's so beautifully recorded, all the guitar samples. Oh shit, I should show you that, shouldn't I? And yet here we are trying to make it sound old and a bit broken. So here's one of the guitars. The main guitar is actually a nylon string. So this is the Ample Sounds AGL2. So it looks like this in action. Key switches, so you can actually choose the string that you want the note, because obviously what's kind of uniquely weird about guitars is, like, if I want to hit like this C, actually this is a better example. So this note exists there, it exists there, it exists there. So it really changes how it sounds, and it's a big clue to authenticity when it comes to getting guitar parts to sound realistic. So it's not enough to have the right notes in. Obviously, I arrange these parts for real guitars, pre-access barriers, so I know exactly where they're supposed to land on the fretboard. So there's a lot of work going on in the key switches to make sure that they do land where I would play them. And that's not necessarily... And then another thing to bear in mind is I can't change the tuning of this. So this song was written in an alternate tuning, so the key switches are respecting the correct string for the tuning, right? Still with me? So what happens then is what you end up with is something that is tonally correct, but the actual fingering of the plugin would be impossible. You'd need 20 fingers to pull off some of these chord shapes, but that's because the strings are, the intervals of the tunings are all wrong for the way the piece was composed. But it sounds the most authentic way. Like, this stretch here is just huge, but it's fine with the tuning. It sounds great, I'm so happy with it. But wait a minute, audio friends, I can't talk today. It doesn't sound quite right though, does it? It still sounds a bit strange. There's a bit of a warbly quality. It's quite distorted. It's unusually distorted. Why is it so distorted, guys? Oh! Dun dun dun! Right, so we bought a new toy. We've got the Waves Kramer Master tape thing. Josh is going to zoom in. Right, so this thing is just absolutely badass, right? This is like tape saturation designed by Eddie Kramer. He obviously worked with... well, I know Eddie Kramer's name from Jimi Hendrix. He's the main person I think of when I think of him. It's it's got a lovely way of adding gain and a bit of compression quite naturally. Like it just, it obviously gets louder, but it gets louder in a nice kind of. The flux is great. Obviously, that's just way too much distortion. But actually, I've got it quite high. That's like none at all. No, I haven't got them in yet. That's why I thought that. Oh, because that's weird. I put some percussion into the guitar as well, so there's some slaps on the body, which had fooled me into thinking I was listening to the beatboxing as well. So, if you listen to just the nylon string for a minute, if I go on to the higher phrase. Wow, now that wow and flutter is beautiful actually. At 1 millisecond delay, there's not really any delay happening, but you get if you crank it up to like 20%, there's just a sort of a vintage kind of, like, I suppose it's technically a kind of flange effect, isn't it? Or it's chorusing a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah, probably chorusing.
Okay, so that's one way of doing it, right? Here's a different way of playing it. So what I found was that the electric guitar tone, arranging these riffs in a kind of listening to a lot of post rock and math rock stuff, started with an interest in bands like a band I was really interested into, a Scottish group called Stapleton. What really interested me was they're kind of like a rock band, but they have these really super clean tones, and then that sound to me has evolved into like this math rock thing of bands like Polyphia and Covet and stuff. So I'm really in that zone of clean electric guitars at the minute. Adapted the riff, just calmed it down a bit, because you can't do all that kicking. I'm just going to lose the vocal for a second. Actually get into your plugins in here.
Yeah, what are you using, Chris?
What am I using, Josh? That's a very good question. I'm using, well, my DAW of choice nowadays is PreSonus Studio One 4, and I'm using the PreSonus Studio One remote control, so I can get into all my plugins on my voice and do everything. I don't even need to look at my computer. If I've done this right, I spent a long time, but I was only doing it on headphones. I kind of shaped and did a bit of a sculpt on my vocals in a multi-band, doing a bit of multi-band surgery, just looking at where, tighten up some of the brightness that I want to hear, really squish out some of the, make sure that the muddy lows are really tightly compressed, and kind of, it might need some work still, but it does work better than I thought. Okay, so I think distortion on my voice is good. I want to bring the mix down a bit. Cautionary tale coming right up. So I've done loads of work at home on headphones, and this is the first time I've dialed in these presets in the studio. And there's some good ideas, but like when it comes to the balance of things and the mix, like I had a guitar in there which I managed to sort of hide before it blasted out. No, it was the drums, like the amount of, like the effects on the drums, like They sounded good to me last time I heard it. They really don't sound good over monitors. So now we know of people who who we consider to be really shit hot that are using headphones to finish everything, right? Like Nolly.
From Periphery.
Off Periphery, who is using headphones a lot out of necessity. He's mixing things on the tour bus and on the in the airport and stuff. So there's got to be a way, but my ears haven't got to the point where I can make a judgment about things like delay or reverb or even saturation on a distortion. Like there was way too much distortion on my voice.
Stop your make believe, but maybe as well. So maybe you could softly say what I need to hear again.
Okay, cool. So now let's go back to the acoustic kind of mix. So I'm going to bring the acoustic guitars back. I'm going to kill off these clean guitars. I think that's everything. Let's try it like that. But the groove's different for a start. But I think.
I couldn't help but softly say that I'm hopelessly for you. I couldn't help the words come out without making them ring true. You'll never stop your make-believe, all your ifs, buts, maybes, whens. So maybe you could softly say what I need to hear again. I've never heard your soul relay something I could not compute. No matter what your heart displays, I can only see the truth with you. But if you don't wanna try, then ask where your heart upon your sleeve, but it's not what I can take. It's a version of a version of just what you want me to believe. But you can let your
So that's it. That's basically my problem at the moment, is that there's a kind of an acoustic way of playing it and an electric way of playing it, and I feel that the acoustic way is a really fascinating world of accessible tech conversation. Doesn't suit my voice that well. My voice sounds better in the electric way. I wonder if there's a way to sing it better for both. Maybe there's two things going on. I don't know. Cool. That's it for now.